you could just take the most basic example of bailouts. Everything the Fed does is by definition a bailout, because they create claims on gold that doesn't exist and give it to people so that they can spend. Whatever the Fed does is a bailout. It just comes in bigger or smaller chunks. So basically, a bank can do whatever it wants, and it might experience some minor consequence somewhere. You have a headline, Wells Fargo paid $2 billion in fines for spoofing or whatever it is, and then the article goes into what spoofing is and why it's immoral. But then again, the entire banking system is being bailed out every day by the Fed providing whatever it is on the back end. It's just that we see it more in chunks when it happens in a bigger way, like we saw in 2008, like we saw in 2019, like we saw in 2020. Like they could shut down the entire planet. A lot of people on the margins are going to lose their jobs. I'm in the U.S. now, and I'm seeing really concentrated trends in certain industries that are kind of scary. I mean, if you think about them, like every billboard that I see is, some kind of, not every single one, but so let's say, 50-60% of all billboards as I drive on the highways, they're about, there's this big amount of money, let's say $500,000, and some injury attorney, you're talking about how he can sue for you. I hear these ads on the radio nonstop about the same thing. Everything's concentrated now. All the money's concentrated in insurance claims and accidents and injury claims and whatever. All this is where all the big inflation is going, or part of it. So when you have a society that's so concentrated in these very specific areas that are not very productive, all of that money goes away, and you have all these people in these very inflated industries that are suddenly unemployed, and they have nowhere to go because there's no demand for their services anymore. Right. So the people that are in the very concentrated inflation influenced areas, like litigation, that's one of the reasons we have such a litigious society, and securitization.
Industries built on paper, securitization, refinancing, litigation, remain vulnerable when economic tides shift. The 2025 legal market faces upheaval. AI reshapes compensation and hiring, while lateral moves and firm restructuring reflect deeper pressures. Lawyers and back-office roles tied to leveraged systems may find themselves adrift when the pyramid topples. At the same time, complex litigation, especially high-stakes commercial and class action cases, is surging, absorbing resources and spotlighting the fragmentation beneath legal productivity.
Right, I'm reading a book now about how the CMBS market, the commercial mortgage-backed securities market, is structured, and how much employment that feeds. So you have basically any profession that's involved in moving paper around to kajigger a refinancing of something to keep a pyramid going, basically somewhere in the structure, they're going to have to find something else to do, and most of them don't have any practical skill how to do anything other than, manipulate the system in some way that right now is profitable. So those professional classes are going to get really hit. People with skills they're also going to get hit if they have, minimum wage jobs now just to keep going. But if they have skills, their skills will be in demand from somewhere. I don't know what their standard of living is going to be, but they'll probably be in better situation than people who have no skills other than pushing around big piles of mortgages to try to get him more time to pay his loan, the bankers, that sort of thing. So these people are going to be in I hope not dire straits. I hope they have some real savings, but if they don't, they're going to be in trouble. And people that are living hand to mouth now, if they have skills, they'll probably move up a little bit. Because the inflation is killing them. And once the hyperinflation comes, the inflation is over and they can start rebuilding. So yeah, there's going to be a period of difficulty for them, but it's going to be easier for them than, let's say, a hotshot banker that has no skill in how to do anything.
Those relying solely on procedural or financial tooling face stark challenges. No fallback, no transferable value. By contrast, people with tangible skills, crafting, repairing, creating, retain resilience. Teaching children sewing, tying shoelaces, or following directions isn't nostalgic, it's essential. Today, societies confronting inflation and automation are seeking grounded skills. Combined with rising uncertainty in global markets, the narrative becomes clear. Hands-on adaptability may outperform system jockeys.
It's important for a society, not just, what is the society and the collection of its people, and society doesn't know how to what is moving it. You look around at this humongous system, it's like, how does this all work? And I can't answer that either. I have no idea. Other than I'm just focusing on teaching my children how to work with their hands, how to sew. They know how to crochet, how to create things, just to give them confidence and using their hands. My daughter might be the only one in her class. She's in second grade, the only one who knows how to tie her shoe. And I have because there's no shoelaces on shoes anymore for kids. You try to find one. We were trying to find shoes her size, the shoelaces on them. We couldn't find them because nobody knows how to tie shoes anymore. And I have nieces and nephews that are older than her, like maybe 10, 11 years old, that told me they don't know how to tie shoes because they never had to do it, right? And I'll tell you this, like my wife teaches gymnastics, or tries to, but she just realized after a year or two of trying to do this that children actually lack in this generation. In Israel, I'm talking about. I don't know what it's like in the U.S. Maybe you've seen this too. They lack the ability to even understand that following directions is a thing that you have to do. Because if there are no consequences to actions, parents just don't discipline their children, even in the most basic way. I'm talking about hitting. I'm just talking about I'm saying this, you do it. Right? If you don't have that, you don't have the ability, even if you wanted to basically follow directions and do what an authority figure is telling you to do. Now, I'm not saying all children have to listen to authority at all times. Obviously not, if they're saying or doing the wrong thing. But the basic skill of being able to follow directions is now, the fact that we're naming it executive function means that it's not taken for granted that you even know how to do these things. So now my wife is trying to figure out, how do you teach kids the ability to even follow directions? Like, she's saying something, therefore you follow it. Even that logical connection is not there. How do you do that without the ability to impose consequences on the kids in your group? Like, okay, you didn't come with a leotard, so you can't participate today. She can't do that because she'll get fired. It's impossible. So, we have problems even deeper than people don't have any skills, or kids can't do anything. It's that kids don't even have, beyond that, the ability to understand that following directions is a thing.
Beyond job loss lies a deeper crisis: action without comprehension. In classrooms and boardrooms alike, the ability to follow basic instructions is eroding. This mirrors another skill gap. Many financial professionals today don't understand what money is, or the broader consequences of incremental bailouts and monetary easing. The cumulative effect? A society running on autopilot, disconnected from cause and effect, increasingly vulnerable to structural failure.
You could just take the most basic example of bailouts. Everything the Fed does is by definition a bailout, because they create claims on gold that doesn't exist and give it to people so that they can spend. Whatever the Fed does is a bailout. It just comes in bigger or smaller chunks. So basically, a bank can do whatever it wants, and it might experience some minor consequence somewhere. You have a headline, Wells Fargo paid $2 billion in fines for spoofing, or whatever it is. And then, the article goes into what spoofing is and why it's immoral. But then again, the entire banking system is being bailed out every day by the Fed providing whatever it is on the back end. It's just that we see it more in chunks when it happens in a bigger way, like we saw in 2008, like we saw in 2019, like we saw in 2020. Like they could shut down the entire planet without consequence. Not without consequence. There will be consequences, but you can delay them with inflation, or you can spread them out over a longer period of time with inflation, so they're less noticeable. Right? If there was no Fed and there were lockdowns, people would starve within days. And that didn't happen because of the money that was printed that could just flow through the system and keep it kind of working so that nobody starved to death. But yeah, so if we're going to take the example of executive function with children, the bankers today, they don't even realize, they don't even know that what they're doing is, most of them don't know that what they're doing is wrong morally. They don't know what money even is anymore. They're proud of how they are handling the current pyramidal structure, which if you listen to the details of it and listen to them explain, some of them are very smart people, and most of them they're not nefarious people individually. They're not trying to hurt anybody. They're just doing what they see as the system, and they're trying to keep it in balance. So that's what they're supposed to do, but they don't know that it's wrong. Just like kids don't have an executive function because they were never taught what following directions is. Bankers don't know what they're doing because they've never been taught what money is. It's the same thing. It's just one is the entire society, the entire economic structure, and the other is one child who was never taught by his parents to listen to what they say.
Global economic fault lines are widening. Forecasts suggest slower GDP growth, persistent price pressures, and heightened geopolitical risks. In the U.S., stagflation, stubborn inflation paired with stagnant growth, is no longer theoretical. Analysts fear rising tariffs, weakened currency, and policy drift could sustain inflation while undercutting recovery efforts. Investment strategies now favor inflation hedges like gold or tips as mainstream equities and rates face volatility.
That is what's coming on a financial level. And I would hope that there are enough people in society, and we are at the head of it. We are at the head of that class as not just stackers, but anyone involved in anything real. There are still plenty of those people left. It's just that the people that are involved in stacking paper in the right way so the pyramid doesn't fall over, they take the headlines. It's like, technically, I guess the mainstream media is in charge of the narrative, but nobody listens to them anymore. So, there's still a lot of people thirsting for truth out there. I'm very optimistic. I'm not saying that everyone is going to survive this, but I do think that we have enough people who understand what reality is, or basically understand. I'm not saying they have any sophisticated theories or they can cite, the entire structure of everything, but they just have a gut feeling of what right and wrong is, which is all you really need. And then you just follow your instincts from there, as long as they're good ones. That and not that I'm not super pro Trump, or I'm also not against Trump or anything, but I do see as very positive. The American society has made some very important basic moves back to sanity. Not really in the monetary sphere, not really in the financial so much or at all, but just in terms of, children's rights, which I see as the most important thing.
Yet in turmoil lies clarity. Like waking from a nightmare, society may emerge more grounded, modest, and honest. Small shifts protecting children's rights, questioning extremes, prioritizing reality, can unspool collective delusion. Economic shocks, while painful, may cleanse distorting systems and surface integrity. The future may not demand brilliance. Often it simply craves common sense.
I remember hearing that I forgot what it had, some weird name, but they were in charge of gender affirmation surgery for a bunch of minors in the country, and they decided to suspend operations. These kinds of things are positive, and a small move back in the direction of sanity, even in the most basic issues, can wake up a lot of people and take them out of a spell. So we're talking, what I'm saying is, like, the people that they were kind of woke and they were like, yeah, men and women should be equal, or whatever they're thinking to themselves, and then they suddenly realize that children are being mutilated and they kind of snap out of it. So I think we're getting those people now. And as we head more into the hyperinflation, we'll get more and more of those people that are realizing that this is all fake. They won't be able to explain it to you, but it will awaken some kind of visceral emotion in most humans that aren't completely gone, that this is all wrong. Just like, like a lot of Nazi soldiers at the end of World War II, once the Russians had completed their invasion and the Americans were right there, and they were like, okay, what is this? What have we been doing? It's like the waking up from a nightmare. That's going to happen in America, and I'm not making any equivalent. I'm not calling Americans Nazis at all. No, not anything like that. I'm just saying everyone's under some kind of nightmare, including ourselves, and though we're aware of it, we're still stuck in here. And that's all gonna clear up, and it's going to be messy, but we should be able to reorganize from there in a way that is much more modest and much more honest and a lot safer for all of us.